If you had advice that you could, and I'll keep it specific to business advice, that you could give 40-year-old Dave, what would you tell him then that like you know now that you didn't know then?
One of the biggest obstacles on the path to building wealth is the sheer volume of conflicting advice. It creates confusion and paralysis, leaving you unsure of which path is the right one for you. Today, we're analyzing a conversation with Dave Ramsey to cut through that noise, focusing on the core strategies and the mindset that built a multi-hundred-million-dollar financial education enterprise from the ground up. Let's begin with the most debated topic, his philosophy on debt. This isn't the simple version you've likely heard. Listen closely to the intellectual framework he presents for why he avoids it.
So what I figured out was that in business debt or real estate debt, business is not publicly traded. No one includes all the math. They leave out a risk factor associated with debt mathematically. And so we look at a very inaccurate and primitive measure of leverage. And so if I can borrow this money at 2% and I can invest it at 8%, why am I not making 6%? Well, A, you left out inflation, B, you left out taxes. But aside from that, and that's pretty basic because this is the argument. It's that it is that the argument is that primitive.
Right.
But you did not adjust for the risk you took on. Because I think we can all agree if you have a business that's doing $10 million top line and you've got $12 million in debt, you have a lot more risk than if you had $2 million in debt. And even $2 million is more risk than if you had zero debt. We can agree that debt is equal to risk.
This completely reframes the debate around debt. It moves beyond a simple behavioral or moral argument into a sophisticated mathematical one. What he's identifying is a massive blind spot in how most people analyze business and real estate deals. They calculate the potential upside of leverage, but completely ignore the need to mathematically account for the risk it introduces. In the world of public stocks, we use formulas like beta to adjust for volatility, to compare apples to apples. His point is that in the world of private business and real estate, this critical step is almost always skipped. The real danger of debt isn't the interest rate. It's the non-zero probability of a catastrophic event that can wipe you out, a risk that leverage magnifies exponentially. Understanding this is the foundation of true financial resilience. This core idea of managing risk by operating within your circle of competence is the key to investing. As we see in the next clip, this very principle became a major turning point.
You said something to him that massively changed the direction of how we invested, just
Whoa.
so you know. Yeah.
Whoa.
So I just wanted to share that with you. So I think you had said loosely, well, before I look at this, if this were your brain or your knowledge or your experiences, what percentage of this pie would you say is real estate versus stocks versus anything else? And he said, well, because he had asked you, do you think I'm over-indexed on real estate? But when you asked him the question, he said, well, I mean, I guess probably 85% of my knowledge is around real estate. And I think his portfolio kind of reflected that. You were like, well, then that's a perfect mix for you. And for me, as we were coming out of our liquidity event, we'd probably taken about 40 million home before that.
Wow, good for you. That's awesome.
It's not 300.
It was 300's gross, dude.
I know.
You know the difference in gross and net.
But anyways, and so I had, while I was growing the business, I basically just didn't really invest at all. I mean, I just put it in indexes and was like, I'll deal with it later. And then we had the liquidity event, and I talked to probably every guy that I know who was richer than me and was like, what should I do with all this? And the answers that I got were as different as there are people under the sun.
Yep.
Which left me more confused than anything.
This is one of the most powerful and liberating pieces of financial advice you will ever receive. It gives you permission to ignore 99% of the investment opportunities presented to you. The financial world often profits from making you feel that you need complex, sophisticated products to succeed. The reality, as we see here, is that your greatest investment advantage comes from your own unique knowledge base. You should align your capital with your intellect. Instead of chasing what's popular or what worked for someone else, you double down on the area where you have an unfair information advantage. This approach dramatically simplifies your strategy, reduces your risk of being misled, and puts you firmly in control of your financial destiny. Once you build wealth by focusing on what you know, the challenge shifts to protecting it. The next point reveals the single most valuable and fragile asset in any long-term strategy.
And so somewhere along the doing stupid stuff like not vetting who we're going to associate our brand with, instead of just buying it, we were so happy we had an ad sold. We made a little revenue, my God. And then you figure out, that doesn't play well because you're destroying your credibility with the market. We figured out we were a trust brand. And radio endorsement taught us to be trustworthy, worthy of trust. And so we were very careful. As a matter of fact, just a few minutes ago, I came out of a meeting where I turned down 2 potential advertisers, and the sales team said, we think we need to turn these down, but before we do, it's a lot of money. We need to ask you. And I said, yeah, that guy, if we put that guy on, it's gonna cause our audience is not. No, that's not. So would you send your sister there? Would you send your mom there? Would you send your friend that you play softball with? Would you send them over there? And if they don't pass that acid test, we don't put them on the air. So if I won't really buy it, or I don't really believe someone should buy it for their own good. Like 100% of the things we advertise, I don't necessarily buy personally at my stage of life, but I'm not the market for them either.
Yeah.
So, but I do believe in them, and I believe they're good for you.
The lesson here is profound. Trust is your primary asset, and it is worth more than any short-term revenue opportunity. In a world saturated with noise and questionable advice, being a trusted source is the ultimate competitive advantage. What Ramsey's team understands is that every partnership and endorsement is either a deposit into that trust account or a withdrawal. A single bad association can poison the entire well, because if your audience can't trust your recommendations, they won't trust your core advice either. This isn't just a principle for large companies. It applies to your personal and professional reputation. Your credibility is a currency that compounds over time, and you must protect it relentlessly. So if you protect your brand with such care, how do you get your message out to build that brand? In the first place, Ramsey has a crystal clear model for using media, and it's a masterclass in strategy.
The YouTube Shorts that we've been pumping out is only about 1.5 years old, and we're getting incredible results.
Yeah.
But we're getting results on those, as an example. We don't view those as life transformation items.
Okay.
We view them as lead magnets to lead you to the long-form show, to Financial Peace University, to a book, which are life transformation items. So they're free advertisements that cause people to get a little sample. You get a little old lady standing in Costco with a sample biscuit, right? And so you get a little sample, and get a little sample biscuit, and then you may go buy the whole thing in the freezer. I would not do, in other words, our philosophy on changing lives is why we're here. We would not only do YouTube Shorts because they don't change lives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We would not only do the new long-form TikTok, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. We would not only do that because it won't change a life. And so it's got to lead us somewhere. And based on its response on doing that, or just general activity around whatever the item is, whether it's a long form or short form, we're gonna pour gas on where we're seeing stuff work. And
This is a brilliant insight into modern content strategy. Many creators and businesses get lost chasing views and likes, treating attention as the end goal. But this team operates with surgical precision. They understand that a 60-second clip isn't designed for deep life transformation. It's a sample, an advertisement for the main course. It's a lead magnet to guide people toward the products and services where the real value is delivered, like the books and courses. This clarity of purpose is what separates a hobby from a business. Your content must have a destination. Whether you're a freelancer or a business owner, this model shows you how to use free, accessible content to build an audience and a sustainable financial engine. This level of strategic thinking wasn't always second nature. The ability to build these kinds of systems came from a critical evolution in leadership.
Yeah, I figured out fairly early that that organizations are not going to outgrow the character and intellectual capacity of their leadership, primarily me. And so if I remain dumb in some of the areas I'm dumb in, then we're not going to be at 600 million. You know, I've got to. Or somebody else will be doing it, and if they remain dumb, they can't. You just can't
Right.
do it. I mean, there's stuff you don't know, and so I grew up in a real estate household. Mom and Daddy were in the residential real estate business, and so I've been selling my whole life. Straight commission for me, but self-employment is my DNA. I don't know how to think about working for someone, and when you grow up in that world, you know, you learn to kill it and drag it home because you ain't got anything to eat if you don't kill something and drag it home, and so very tactical. And so I couldn't spell strategic when we started. And we got large enough that we started hiring these things called MBAs, and these people that actually had, and now over the years I've got a ton of MBAs on the team, and I love the MBA programs, most of them that are out there. They do a really good job of teaching. But one of the things I learned almost universally about MBAs, they are heavily steeped in strategic thought. And so the MBAs on our team and me about 20 years ago made a really good trade. They taught me how to think strategically because I didn't know how, and I taught them how to work. So it was a good trade.
This is a moment of powerful self-awareness that every person on a wealth-building journey must internalize. Your personal growth is the ultimate ceiling on your financial or business growth. He candidly admits his own limitation, being excellent at tactics and execution, but weak on strategy. Instead of letting his ego become a bottleneck, he brought in people who complemented his weaknesses and was open to learning from them. The trade, as he puts it, was simple. He taught them work ethic, and they taught him strategic thinking. This humility is a prerequisite for scale. You have to be willing to identify your blind spots and actively work to fill them, because your success will rarely outpace your own personal development. This entire journey of growth culminates in a simple, powerful piece of advice he'd give his younger self, and it's a perfect principle to end on.
If you had advice that you could, and I'll keep it specific to business advice, that you could give 40-year-old Dave, what would you tell him then that, like, you know now that you didn't know then?
Play incremental long ball. Don't look for the home run. I keep waiting for somebody to call me and for this to get easy. One phone call and it's all over. And it's like, oh, now I don't have to think about it anymore. Someone else is going to do it for me. It's all automatic. It's never going to be automatic. It's never going to be easy. It's a hustle and grind. It's a claw. You're going to make a bazillion mistakes. Make mistakes that are experiments that you survive. You put out a hypothesis, you survive the experiment. To live another day to have another experiment. Put out another hypothesis, another product that fails, another idea that fails. And our failures at Ramsey are in number and in money are way greater than our successes. The only thing is we survived them. A, we didn't have debt, and B, we never bet the farm on one horse. And so from a diversification standpoint, we never pushed all the chips to the middle of the table on one hand. And so we're not looking for the singular home run. We're looking to survive and fight another day and keep iterating. And the culmination of that, the accumulated value of those iterations are what we call the gleaming mountain of success, which turns out as a pile of garbage and mistakes that you're just standing on rather than laying under it.
This is the perfect antidote to the shiny object syndrome that derails so many financial journeys. The goal isn't to find the one home run, the one magic stock, or the one business idea that will solve everything. The real strategy is to play the long game through small, incremental, and survivable actions. Lasting success, as he describes it, is not a single gleaming achievement, but an accumulation of experiments, learnings, and survived mistakes. The key is to ensure your mistakes are lessons you can afford. so you can stay in the game long enough for the power of compounding to work its magic. He's standing on a pile of his mistakes, not buried under them. That is the essence of building resilient, long-term wealth. So, where in your financial life are you searching for a single home run instead of playing the incremental long ball? What is one consistent action you will take this week that will compound for your future? Share it in the comments. And if you want more clear financial strategies breakdowns, like and subscribe for more.